Hi there, and welcome to Discussions of Exploration with your host, Sabrina Ben Salmi. Today, I'm here with my special guest, Sola Egbale. Have I said your surname correctly?
Absolutely on point.
Oh,
Absolutely correct. I love
yay!
it. Yes, you got it. You
Thank
got
you.
it in one, Sabrina. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So Shola is going to be speaking with regards to resetting the mindset. You know, would you agree that the mindset is the foundation of everything else that needs to be built on top? So very welcome to the show, Shola.
Thank you.
Please,
Thank you for having me.
you're welcome. Please introduce yourself to our listeners and our viewers.
Yes, thank you, Sabrina. Thank you for being for hosting me on this platform. Yep. So as you already eloquently introduced me there, my name's Sola Egbale. I'm a teacher. I'm a mentor. A motivational speaker. Something I like to add into the slot. A peak performance coach. Yes, trying to show people, guide people how to maximize their potential, how to unlock their potential. I can't leave out the fact saying that I'm a father, a husband, a grandfather, because all these attributes, all these blessings make me who I am today. So that's me.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much for that. So I guess first and foremost, I would love you to share with the listeners a little bit about your story. You know, at this current state, that all of us are in a very similar boat. We're at home.
Yeah.
Some people are having really good experiences, some people are not. And I feel that our story helps to really humble us as human beings to realize that we all can start from different walks of life, but that's not what's important. It's where you're going that adds
Right.
up. So where you start doesn't determine your outcome, but what you choose will actually get you there. And I'm a true believer. If you know me, you've spoken to me, I say the same things over and over again, so I can teach it to you. Is that the vision is the postcode for the soul. So once you know where you're going, the rest is history.
Yeah. Definitely. And just to to hone in on that, to really emphasize that, Sabrina, you asked, okay, well, the situation that we're in right now, how are we viewing it, how are we taking it? Are we, taking a positive out of what looks like a totally adverse, and negative situation? But it is all about how we perceive it, isn't it? There is that negative aspect, I suppose. Obviously, we're being kept in. There's a form of fear, there's control, but again, only if we let these things hold us. Because the thing is, Sabrina, look, we weren't, from what I read, from what I soak up, we weren't made that way. We weren't made that way to be fearful. We've been blessed with the concepts of power, of love, and sound-mindedness. So we need to hone in on those areas there, so that in this situation, we can overcome, and we will overcome. It's all about, I think we've entitled this, is it resetting the mindset? Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what
So I think this is the perfect arena that our mindsets can be reset. So what we were doing before, it's a case of unlearning, where we were before, and then relearning how to now move forward. I mean, things, for example, what we're doing now, I've normally been a face-to-face networker. And, what we're doing now, for example, the online stuff, I'm having to kind of relearn, all the gadgets, all the technology, left behind sort of thing. So it's it's a learning experience, but it's a good experience. Yeah. It's a time that we can be still and reflect and plan and focus. So I'm taking, these last few weeks, I'm taking some real positives out of it. I mean, don't get me wrong, people are dying, people are sick, and truly my heart does go out to people that have lost loved ones. I myself have lost loved ones. There's been those situations there, but we're trying to put the concept of of caring. We're then able to show genuine care, aren't we?
Yes.
Before, when there was adverse situations, there was sickness, there was all these sad stuff, we're still busy getting on with our lives, aren't we? You're rushing about here and there. But now we're in a place.
Yes.
And we have to receive it. We have to acknowledge it. But you know what? We can use that to to move on, to progress, and try and motivate and encourage others that are, going through those situations. This situation, I believe, is a leveler. It's an absolute leveler because we're all in the same boat. We're all in. But that being in it depends on what we're doing with that time. How we're making, the best use of that time. How are we redeeming that time that we may have lost before?
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely. I really love that. I love what you're saying with regards to what do we choose to make of this time. And it will be different for different people, going back to the essence of this show.
Sure.
That it's about the mindset. Like, what do you feel are the key components that our listeners need to be tapping into with regards to their mindset? What would you suggest they can start with?
Okay, good question. Good question. I mean, it's a very, there's so many different facets to that, I would say, Sabrina, but I'm going to answer from the perspective of a man, of a guy, of, a father figure, in the sense that, obviously, about my organization, Real Talk Mentors, that we mentor young people. And I think I was saying to you before that we then as adults and as parents, we need to be putting forward, a positive role modeling experience, for our young ones, because, they're going to look at us in this situation, for example, and if we're going crazy, we're getting stressed up, we're doing all these things, but we're saying something totally different, straight away the trust and the belief in, in that relationship, it's gone. So if we're showing positivity, we're showing belief, we're displaying that encouragement. Yeah. So that's what I said. We as an organization, and me personally, I like to try and keep that mindset intact. My daily sort of routine. I'll give you a sort of sneak preview of of what I do, and I do this even irrespective of the so-called lockdown. It's having a word in the morning, spiritually first and foremost to Father God. Having a workout, get the blood pumping. Get the endorphins sort of jacked up, sort of thing. Get the blood pumping, get flowing. And then you're in a place, you're in a zone, and then I believe that one can then achieve whatever one needs to achieve because the mindset has been set in a certain way. I'll give an example. Yesterday, I was having a link up with my granddaughter and my oldest daughter. They live up north, and with my daughter here, the youngest one. And it was great because we were having a workout. We used the WhatsApp to do the hookup, and we had a workout together. I was out of breath after about half an hour, but so what? The fact is, that we connected.
Yes.
We connected. So what I'm trying to get to is that there needs to be that connectivity. There needs to be that link up where we're sharing this, this whole thing together. I think that's the basis of all that we're talking about now, Sabrina, in terms of connecting, being able to identify, connect, and move forward. But it's all about forming this positive mindset all the time, regardless of what's going on. Look, we all have sad days. I have days when I feel a bit iffy. But after a few minutes, when you get to realize that, look, I'm here for a purpose. I'm here for a reason. And you ask, okay, what is that reason then? And then we start to extend, we start to search, we start to tap into ourselves, and let this thing start to emanate.
Beautiful. I love the fact that you talk about mindset and men and mentoring. And I think my question that's kind of in the forefront of my mind is that what do men need? It's one thing me hypothesizing, but I don't know what it's like to be a man. I've got sons, I'm married, I work with men, but it still doesn't give me the right to say, you feel like that, so this is what you need. Like, what do you feel are the kind of, how can I say, a lot of the insecurities, pains that men consistently seem to have a thread that kind of, no matter how old you are, no matter where you come from, these are the things that need to be addressed. Because one of the things that I really believe is that it's in our vulnerability, that's when we get to the root of the problem, that's when we can get real solutions.
Definitely. And as you rightly said, look, at the beginning, look, men are hurting. Men are crying, and we are hurting. That's the fact of the matter. Men, we don't like to admit that that's the case because of the way we've been conditioned. You know, the way, what has been planted into us from young, you know, men don't cry, men don't express, men don't communicate. This is what's been funneled into us, you know, at whatever age. And, you know, and it's an absolute myth. That myth needs to be totally just blasted out. It needs to be. And this is where, from a mentoring perspective, this is where the kind of forefront, you know, that we kind of, you know, look at foundational issues. You know, what we've been taught, it's a case of, to a degree, unlearning what we've been taught and relearning. You know, we talked before about emotional intelligence. I believe that men need to start getting to grips with this format. Emotional intelligence over academic or intellectual intelligence, if you like. Yeah, because if we as guys haven't got our emotions in check, if we don't know how to relate to ourselves first and foremost, there's no way that we can relate to others. You know, those that are close, our relationships, you know, our marriages, our partnerships, even in business. Yeah. If you don't know how to manage a situation, if you can't control your anger, if you can't control your frustration, you know, if you can't control these elements here, there's no progress. It'll be a kind of stop-start situation. And this is what's been happening from as way back as I can remember. I think I shared something to you before about, you know, when I lost my father many years ago, and I was told that, look, do not shed a tear, do not cry. You know, don't allow that release of an emotion to happen. Well, when we don't do that, we bottle it up and we pocket it, and it gets placed somewhere. And I tell you what, from experience, it will manifest itself in a horrible way. It could be in a year's time, it could be in 10 years, it could be in 20 years' time. Yeah. When we do this, Sabrina, we kind of set off a train of events that can lead to a self-destruct path. And, you know, this is one of the things that allowed me, or sort of encouraged me, to set up my organization. Looking at all that, looking at my sort of review my own experiences, and seeing that, you know what, if only we can just reach out and speak to somebody, if only we can just, if somebody just asks us, look, what is it you need? What is it you want? You know, and then that need is addressed. So I think I was saying to you before about having our needs met. So we should then be going out to meet people at the point of their need, not the point of our expectation. You know, men should be met at the point of their immediate need. Once that so immediate and so basic need can be met, yeah, there's a certain good place one is in, and you can then extend that out. So I believe that men need to be doing this on a more intricate basis, on a more personal basis. You know, linking up with other guys. One of the things that we do is, you know, we have sort of pockets of fellowships with men. You know, we pray together. You know, we're not as men. Sometimes men are ashamed to say that, you know, that we pray. You know, the fact of the matter is that, you know, we were made by a higher, you know, a higher source. So why not? It's only right that we tap into the source. Look, I'll tell you what, I'll give you this analogy. I used to use this in some setups. I said, look, we've all got these mobile phones, yeah? Now, if your mobile phone, if you don't plug in, let me answer you a question, Sabrina. If you don't plug your phone in, what's going to happen?
It will die.
It will die. So when it's dead, it's useless, isn't it? It's redundant.
Exactly.
Right. So I use that analogy, that phone analogy, with us as men then. In fact, men and women. If we don't plug in to the source, right, then we die. But before that death, we're moving at 50%. We're moving at 20%. Look, when your phone, I bet you do this, Sabrina, when your phone's on 7%, I bet the next thing you do is, where's my charger? Where's my charger? I've got to plug in. So we as guys need to be doing the same thing, that when the batteries is going low, right, we need to plug into the source so we're at full capacity, full strength, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, you know, and then we can radiate that power out to those around us.
I love that. I really, really love that. And I see that as with regards to men. So one of the things I think is really big, I'm a mother of 5 and I've got 3 sons, discipline and healthy habitual actions on a daily basis. And I love the essence that if we can teach men at a very young age, and obviously it starts from childhood, but even as adults, listener, if you're listening to this and, you're a father, even if you're a single man, it's like, how can you create some healthy habits to plug in, just like Sola just said? And I think that's so evident in life that we fail to plug in, and that's when we become ratty and disconnected. So I love that analogy. Thank you so much for sharing that. What are the things do you feel that prevent men from plugging in, from being verbal? What do you think it is? I know that you talked about the whole shutting down of emotions, and I've been subject to that, where I've heard my husband saying to my son, like, don't cry, you're acting like a girl, men don't cry. But I've also seen my husband cry, but my children don't see him cry. So why do men kind of hand down essence of them that they're not actually really activating in their own lives?
Good question. Good question. I think I would say, look, so at the moment I don't have, I say at the moment, notes, I don't have any sons.
Oh, your poor wife.
So I have, I've been blessed. I'm blessed. I have 3 daughters.
I'm concerned with that at the moment for your wife. That's what I'm concerned of.
So I have three daughters and a granddaughter. So that perspective of giving to other men or younger men, as it were. I mean, but then I have men around me of a younger age and so forth. So I'm still able to answer that question. I would say it may be a kind of rhetorical question. Then, is it about peer pressure? Is it about what we've been taught to suppress? Is it part of this thing again that we've got to kind of keep it down, so we're not extending what we've not experienced. We then tend to still move in that same way. Example again, look, my father, so my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, I never met him, but the stories I used to get was that my father lost his father at the age of 12. Yes, so he never had, or from that sort of key age, having his father as a role model. Yes, and then growing up, then I'm my only son, so growing up as a boy, because of the experiences that my father had, I believe it was then inadvertently passed on to myself, in the sense that, look, well, I didn't have a father to turn to. So even though I'm here as your father, you've got to move how I used to move without a father. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it wasn't a case of like, well, I lost my father, so you know what, the fact I'm here, I'm going to give to you what I did not have. Yeah, I'm going to give you what I had.
Yes, what I understand, what I'm able
What
to.
I understand.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes,
Exactly.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. So again, growing up, don't get me wrong. My father, may he rest in peace. He was a great role model for me. Great advocate, man, full of integrity and love. But the way he was able to put that out was in a way that was very confusing for me, I would say. Yeah. So growing up as a man, as a youth, as a young guy, as a man, I had to learn a lot of things for myself. And again, there's some cultural aspect in there. There's some, to answer your question, there's some generational stuff in there as well that prevents us from then being more lateral in the way that we think and the way we sort of deliver that out to mentor, the young males coming up.
I totally agree. I really love the way you answered that. And it kind of makes me think about, from your current stance now, being a husband, being a father, being a grandfather, what do you know that you wish you knew when you started out being a father, that you can somewhat kind of give a message to your younger self or to the listeners, quite frankly, about what are the kind of things that men can put in place that you wish you knew beforehand?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, Sabrina, that's a powerful question, and hopefully I'm going to give you some, real cutting edge answers. I mean, one of the things I would answer, I would say transparency. I believe that men, we've got to be transparent, and in that transparency, it then causes vulnerability. But you know what? Out of those two concepts there, out of the transparency and out of the vulnerability, I believe from my experience, there comes respect. Because when you're being real, when an adult and a parent is with their children, the child respects that.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, there are many moons ago in my, you know, quote unquote misspent youth or whatever we want to call it. Yeah. Sometimes I sit down with my daughters and I have to relay certain experiences. And they're like, Dad, what? Did you do that? Did you? I'm like, yeah. I said, that doesn't mean it was right, but it happened. So you know what? I understand what you're thinking right now. I understand where you're coming from. But you know what? As your father, I'm going to show you and tell you the right thing from a position of love, from a concept of love. You know, sometimes we get this thing twisted. Love doesn't mean that it's always going to be correct. It doesn't mean that. Love means that, you know what, no matter what you do, you know what, I'm here for you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm here for you. Yeah, I'm not going to run that back on you again and tell you I told you so. Love means I'm here for you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's beautiful. I really love that, because you then can go and create a safe space for expression and that in exchange of communication in a nice healthy way, where that person doesn't feel frightened to actually come out and share. It's a safe space. I guess that really brings me on to the aspect of mentoring. With regards to mentoring, what would you say to maybe a listener if they felt like, well, my life is kind of together, I don't need a mentor, I'll get one when something goes wrong? What would you say with regards to mentoring? How important do you think it is in our lives?
Well, that's again another loaded question, Sabrina. But because it's what I do, and I don't just do it because it's a career or vocation. I do it because that's my passion. That's what I'm here for. I believe that's what I was put on this earth to do. So, forgive me if my answer is a bit biased, but no. But seriously, mentoring, I believe, is an absolutely vital an essential ingredient in our lifelong, get this, in our lifelong learning experience. A lot of us again think that we've learnt, so you know what, I'm good, now I can step off. No, we don't. We're learning. Us together right now doing this, I'm learning. I'm learning more about myself. I'm learning about yourself. I'm learning, even though I can't see or hear the listeners, but I'm learning the whole concept. It's a lifelong experience in terms of our personal development and our professional development. I'd suggest if there isn't mentorship going on, there are areas left untapped. Yeah, there are things unsaid. The aim of mentoring really is to be able to share. It's a two-way process between I myself as a mentor, yourself, for example, as a mentee. So we share that experience, yeah? Two-way process and helping both those parties extend, yeah? And be able to enhance their experience of life. Unlocking our skills, knowing identifying what those skills are, to have those skills nurtured. One of the adage that we use for Real Talk Mentors, as you already know, is it's all about unlocking potential, because every single one of us has potential, and unfortunately some of that potential is buried, it's been suppressed. Sometimes it takes an adverse situation for that potential to be lifted out. Other times it takes seeing one of our peers doing for then our potential to be ignited. So it's all about the identification process. So I would suggest that mentoring is an integral part of life that we all need in some way, shape, or form. Look, even if we don't use the term that we're a mentor, every single one of us has a mentoring experience. Yes. With either being a mentor or we've been a mentee. Yeah, that's the fact of the matter. People that we respect could be family, friends, business associates. Somewhere along the line, we get spoken to, we take advice, we reason, yeah, we exchange. That's mentoring.
Absolutely, that's so true. Just before we went live, we had a conversation about the importance of rapport, handing down the baton, remembering, coming together on a network. I wonder if you can just touch on those areas like one by one and just share what your perspective is.
Okay, so the Baton Exchange, yes, that's another powerful one. We talk, all these, it's all coming out a little bit, and I was kind of blown away, because they're linked, aren't they? The remembering and the Baton Exchange. So let's look at the Baton Exchange. So again, I'm going to take it from a men's perspective, if you don't mind, Sabrina, because
please do.
I believe that men should be seen. Yeah, men should stand and be identified at the helm of affairs, and that's not saying that in a derogatory way to our women. The partnership has got to be there. The partnership needs to be established, but I believe that the male has a serious role to play, and unfortunately, societal issues, whatnot, have started to negate the role of men. And sometimes we ourselves, as men, have not stood up where we've needed to stand. We've not been there. Whatever. Look, we've all got pressures. We've all had issues. We've all had hurdles to sort of jump over. But the fact of the matter is, we need to stand. And this baton that we talk about is a case of, look, wherever we've run in our lives, the stage that we get to, we need to be handing down. The baton, I suggest, is symbolic of the experiences, that we hand the experiences down to the next generation coming up. And it doesn't necessarily mean that mistakes aren't going to be made. It means that we're able to identify where those potential mistakes could come, and we're able to overcome them. So I believe that not enough of that is being done. And look, I'm not on a judgmental thing here. I'm on a learning curve myself. I'm just sharing what I believe to be part of a healing situation, if you like. So passing the baton down as us guys, crucial. We can only do that when we communicate. When we get together, when we are united. These words sound like, they're all adjectives. They all sound right. How do we do it? How do we do it from a grassroots level? What we're doing now, for example, as you know, Sabrina, we're doing a few of these sessions online with other guys, with other men, sharing experiences, even just to say, look, guys, how you doing? How are you coping in this situation? You know what I mean? How are you getting on with your wife? How are you getting on with your partner? How are you getting on being holed up, as it were, at home 24 hours? No escape mechanism. Not escaping from your family, but no place to breathe. Because we weren't made to be like this, to be shut away. But how are we doing it? So even if we're doing that as men and sharing that experience, it's passing the baton, it's handing the baton down, because we're showing something, we're displaying something. We are giving that role model experience, if you like.
I love that. And I guess part of you answering this question, I'm thinking, I love the way you're answering it from a male perspective, and I think that's so valuable to add that interjection rather than the women hypothesizing. What support can women give to their men in these stages? Because I feel there's so much beauty in what you're saying about the whole coming together. So in order for a man to take on all of these worldly duties and expectations, would it not be beautiful to actually receive some feminine support in order to empower you to do that?
Of course. Look, I read a word the other day. It says the man. So basically, a man, he who finds a wife finds a good thing, and receives the blessings from the Lord. So look, at the end of the day, Sabrina, look, women are so key to this journey. Unfortunately, again, society is causing those divisions, and those blockages. Women are so key. Look, in terms of support, encouragement, motivating, the understanding, knowing what us guys are trying to do, and just giving us the backup. Asking simple question, how's it going? And even putting your advice, a little suggestion here and there. But again, doesn't that doing that, it kind of smashes this ego thing, this egotistical thing that us guys love to carry. We've all got it. Look, I've got my ego. I've got my male ego there. but as I said, it's about learning. It's about putting ourselves in a place of vulnerability, yeah, but believing that, you know what, by doing that, respect is going to come. Yeah, respect comes out of that. Understanding comes out of that. Yeah, so women, definitely, we cannot separate, and be moving off on a tangent. We're supposed to bring those gifts together. Women, bless you all, have that gift. Men too have a gift. That gift is supposed to be joined together, so we move as one.
I agree.
Yeah. So we're not taking women out of this at all. I don't know. We don't want it to get across, Sabrina, that we're trying to form some kind of men's movement where
I don't think it's coming across like. To be fair, like I was actually privy to be invited to the meeting, so I think what we're doing is much needed. It really is needed, and I think it's like for me when I was in the meeting in a sacred space, I felt very much like I needed to be an assister as opposed to the verbal activator, because I think that us as women, it'd be really powerful if we can assist you to facilitate this, but ultimately you guys need to be free to take the stance that what's wrong with forming a group for men? What's wrong with saying, well, actually, we just need space? Because one of the beliefs that I have is that men are pack-led. So it's all about who is your network of support, because you will be an amplification of who you surround yourself by.
That's
right. I think that as men, you need to have that man cave to go to, that soundboard to just go. You guys are a lot different to us. Okay, I've done a lot of studying because I would say to their dad, what are you thinking about? Nothing. And he goes, well, you can't think about nothing. But I had to literally watch a video that I'm going to share with you. Mark Gangor, he has an amazing YouTube video about the tale of two brains, because men have a nothing box. Women don't have a nothing box. Men talk about one thing and they kind of just want to talk about that box they've pulled out. And women, we connect that box to that box from 1986 and bring it to 2020.
Yeah, and we can't multitask. That put it in a nutshell, like lady, you women, you can multitask. We can't. We're so methodical, and you know what I mean. We're not kind of lateral that way. But again, you know what? Hey, that is in itself a gift, if you like. And then multitasking, we fuse it together. We fuse it as one.
Yeah, and in terms of our conversation that we had about remembering, what tools, support systems do you feel that men actually need for this remembering? So me as a mother, observing the essence of men, I see them in greatness. Like I really celebrate men. And when I look at my sons, one of the things that I definitely identified with is what we discussed about the emotional intelligence. But I found that part of the remembering is that a man needs to be made to feel safe, like he's backed up. He's got a counsel, he's got a network of support, but also finances. What I realized for my son, who's 15, is that it was all very well doing little bits, but if he didn't have significant confidence around his finances, he felt somewhat depleted. What do you kind of feel around that aspect?
So from that standpoint there, Sabrina, when we look remembrance, so isn't it a case of, I think we had a brief discussion about this as well, didn't we, about rejoining, realignment,
that's it.
Realign ourselves, in a form of togetherness, forming the network, so that, you mentioned your son then. Now look, in terms of we coming together, how do we then fuse those multifaceted gifts that each one of us has and form an enclave, form such a powerful movement? So whether it be for giving ourselves that spiritual strength, for example, which then transcends into the physical strength. When I say physical, I'm not talking about fighting and pumping weights. I'm talking about physicality, being out here in the world, being able to move to our full potential. Businesses, the corporations, the stock trading, all the things that are moving and shaking, whereby we don't have that, what they call the generational wealth set up. We don't have it. And I believe that is something that's so much needed before we can go anywhere. You rightly said, look, there are different pockets here and there popping about, yeah. And not being funny, when we look at other different groups, this is what's going on. So we need to be so lateral and learn from what's going out there. I believe we shouldn't be so insular and so inclusive. We need to be out. We need to go out. We need to go out and learn and bring this back in, yeah, and then teach and mentor and encourage and motivate, yeah. So it all goes back into the whole enclave of the mentoring experience, doesn't it?
Yes.
I hope that's answered that, that question there.
Absolutely, no, it has, because it's exactly what you're saying. It's the remembering of, but we've got two sides of the coin, right? So there's the spiritual essence, and then there's the physical essence. So it's one thing that I love what you're saying, to plug back in. So I feel I totally agree with that. For men, they need to be able to plug back in and have the support systems that enable them to. But also, being human beings, like spiritual beings having a human experience, we also have to understand that there's a financial side that has to be fulfilled. And how do we do that? Do we allow sons to grow up, go out there, now you're the head of the home and you have to figure it out? Whereas that's painful. I imagine that's incredibly painful, whereby if you hand down the baton, if you remember, and if you start teaching key life skills, financial, emotional intelligence, and also if they can plug into systems that assist them to generate finances, so they then go to work because they choose to, not because they have to.
That's right. And just to extend that, what you're saying there, the thought just came to me. Look, see, honing in again on the remembering. So it means that something was before. Yeah, it means that there was something before. And the member part isn't that the body, isn't that the object? So it's about fusing those two. The object needs to tap in, needs to realign with how we were before. What was done before? What were we before? Yeah. So really, what we're talking about is identity, isn't it? So if we put it in a nutshell, there's a kind of there's an identity crisis going on, Sabrina, because a lot of us don't know where we're coming. We don't know where we were before. And that doesn't mean, you hear this thing of like, well, if you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going. I refute that. I repel that, and I reject that. We don't need to know for that purpose. Yes? Does that make sense? We don't need to know for that, but it's just, we need to have an identity as to where we are now. What is it? You wake up in the morning, what do you do now? What's your purpose in life now? Yeah. And then we progress. And seriously, having a chat with yourself this morning is fantastic, because hopefully this can go out. We can start to encourage people, more men and women. The group that we have, as you well know, we've not limited it to men. We've said that, look, we need to have some sisters, some women on board to give that that bit there. Look, I'll give you a quick word. Look, I was seeing the news a couple of weeks ago. I didn't realize that. I think it's in Finland that the women, basically, the prime minister and the cabinet are like 95% women, female. Yep. So obviously the prime minister is female, the cabinet mainly female, but not just that. All of the other political parties, the opposing parties, they're all led by females. And I was looking at it thinking, hold on. And then I watched an interview. I can't remember the lady's name, but she gave an interview basically along the lines of, look, for too long, men, we've been out there, the ego gets in the way, yeah? The lack of communication, the lack of vulnerability, yeah? These are things that are looked at sometimes as negatives, but are positive. So when you've got ladies, when you have from a female perspective integrated with men's plans and projects, there can only be success. Yeah, because we both bring something to the table.
Yes, I totally agree. That is amazing. I really, really, really love that. And I think what your talk does, and I really feel this with all of my core, is that we're starting to have conversations about men, with men, to men, for men, unapologetically, because I feel that whenever we talk about men, there's this essence of, it's only men, but is it okay? Or I don't feel that men are supported enough. I definitely don't feel that there are enough recognized awareness of the support levels that men need. Like, let me just give you an example. Domestic violence. There's so much recognized that it's okay that a woman goes through domestic violence, but if a man does, they're weak, they're a coward. I have had friends that have gone through the most horrendous experiences, and the police have turned up and just laughed at him. Would that happen with a woman? No. I have another friend that runs Dad's house. So he supports single parent fathers. But when we think about single parents, we predominantly think about women. So in some respect, my heart absolutely aches for men, because it's somewhat that in society they've been removed.
Well, this is it, Sabrina. It's like we said earlier, though, isn't it? I believe it's a case of, because of what's been pumped into us generationally. You know what the expectation is of a man in society. There's always this image of power, of strength, and that's not to say we don't have that, but you see, when you're kind of being put on that tip there, you're always trying to live up to an expectation. That I believe needs to be nurtured. I don't believe that we just automatically have that. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be learned, and that can only be done by having that role modeling experience around us. Here in Africa, especially in Africa, I can talk more about Africa. No, I can talk about both sides, because look, as I said to you, I was born and brought up here in the UK. Spent a good section of my life out in Nigeria. And, again, the expectation of a male is just so heavy. And it can be good in some contexts, but in others, when you sort of go into yourself, you think, well, hold on a minute. I'm a human being too. I have emotions. I do have feelings. I do have, whether they be the feelings of anger. Look, where does anger come from? It's still a feeling, isn't it?
Yes.
But how do we get to that place? You're not just angry just for the sake of being angry. It's because something has been triggered. Yeah. And it means that foundational thing needs to be tapped into. It needs to be addressed. It could be a foundational issue, for example. It could be something that's been running in the family from way back when. But you know what? Because it's not understood, you're now labeled and identified as that angry man. Exactly. So foundationally, unless we're tapping into those areas, we're going to be stagnant.
I agree. I really agree. It's interesting you saying that. In our family, we have this premise whereby your emotions are merely your internal guidance system. And I love that. If we can honor that, well, I'm feeling sad and that's okay. Let's address it. Let's see what the root cause is. But also, it's a bit like we tend to use the analogy driving up the motorway and the fuel gauge is going to the F. You're not going to say, oh, don't worry, turn up the music and keep going. It's an indicator. So I love what you say with regards to when these indicators start showing up, what are they telling us to do? So if we're just ignoring it and suppressing it, like what you rightly said, it will manifest in other ways. So isn't it better to just acknowledge it, straight hands, go and refill the tank, and then continue with your journey?
That's it. But you see, then we go back again, don't we, to the fact that as men, I suppose, when we do start to acknowledge those things, are we then seen as weak? Are we then being down, in society? Are we not living up to the macho expectation of a man? It's this label that we're trying to move with that it doesn't fit, this one size fits all scenario, it's not on. And again, this is what we're trying to filter down the line through real talk. That we don't look at things from a one size fits all. We got to be looking at bespoke programs, bespoke mentoring. So whatever your case may be, it cannot be the same as the next. Yes, bespoke mentoring, as we were saying. So it's a case of us not believing that one size fits all. Yeah. So every person is so different. Every person is so unique. Every one of us has different needs, and those needs need to be met in different ways.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really tapping into that. So that's what we do, as I said, as an organization. That's what I like to try and do personally as well, to try and see what it's all about, meeting the need, isn't it?
Yes.
And again, as I said before, I think not not taking it from our perspective, what we perceive, not our expectation. but meeting the other person's the need. Because once that need is met, I believe that the next word that's said, the next action that's taken, the person then taps in. You then tap into the fact that, look, you know what? You've listened to me. You've shown empathy. You've shown care. You've shown love. You've shown belief. You've shown respect. You've shown understanding. So when all those components come together, I believe that's what forms relationship.
I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. So for the listeners, I really hope that you've taken some golden nuggets from this conversation. I certainly have. And Sola's done such a phenomenal job of being open, being really open about the perspective of a man. And I think that's so much needed. So what I would highly recommend, Shola, if you can actually share with the listeners, like how can they get in touch with you? Where can they find you on social media? Do you have any contact outlets that they can take note of, please?
Yeah, sure. So obviously you can find us, our website, realtalk247.com. Yeah, we are up there building ourselves, building a little following up on Facebook, Real Talk Mentors. Okay, we have a little following again on the Instagram page, again, Real Talk 247. Okay, so those are the areas. Of course, one wants to sort of touch base on a sort of more physical level. I don't know, Sabrina, if you'd like to share, if you're able to share my details out, that's not a problem.
Absolutely. I'll put it in the bio of the actual video and podcast. So I'll definitely attach that.
So I just want to, if I can just leave on this note though, Sabrina, that one of the things that really drives me, as I said, the mentorship has been formed from the personal experience. Yeah. And what drives me even today is that it's this whole thing, the fire that's burning in me to be an asset. Yeah, to be an asset and not a deficit to a generation. Yeah. So it's not just about this kind of insular circle. It's about, we're talking about a generation now. Yeah, a generation that that's coming up. Meeting people like yourself, I think is so powerful because that's how we connect and move this thing outwardly, more laterally. Yeah. So yeah, I'm available. As I said, the 247 comes to the point that, look, we're here. We're literally 24/7 because it's not a job. It's a passion. Yeah. So Real Talk 247. Look for us. Come connect with us. Come and have a chat. Let's relate. Let's connect.
Thank you so much, Sola. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and thank you for sharing all of what you had to share with the listeners.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute privilege, and more power to what you're doing, Sabrina, because it bridges the gap. It bridges the gap for societies, and again, for generations. So, keep up the great work, and hope to speak again soon.
Thank you so much. Take good care. All my love to you and your family, and speak to you soon.
Thanks very much. Yours too. Hi to those great kids as well. Say hi to them for me. I think I'm speaking to one of them soon. Okay then. Take care.
So much.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right then.